IELTS withdrawal. And in this section, today we are going to uh, talk about the writing part, or writing module of the IELTS test. So, let me share my screen. This is the writing section. And in writing, we have formats. So, format for writing is 60 minutes, and there will be two tasks to perform. Task one, it will be about writing for at least 150 words. There will be an image, and you have to describe that image in task one. And recommended time for completing task one is 20 minutes. On the other hand, in task two, you have to write about 250 words, and recommended time to finish this is 40 minutes. So, and let's talk about task one. So, information in task one is usually in the visual form. Usually, there are given pictures, graphs, flowchart, and tables, and actions to be taken, or summarize the visual in your own words. You have to summarize of what is given in the visual, and you have to compare and contrast information or the visuals wherever possible. Whereas in task 2, you will be given a point of view, an issue, or a problem. Given is given in the form of question or statement, and therefore you have some actions to be taken. And here you have to again compare and contrast where possible. You have to present and support an opinion, or you have to sometimes provide solution to a problem. You have to also evaluate and challenge ideas, evidence, or opinions. Now, assessment criteria. You should be familiar of the assessment criteria in writing. There are four assessment criteria that are used for evaluation of your assets, and they are equally applicable for task 1 essay as well as task 2 essay. So these criteria are: number 1, cohesion and coherence; number 2, lexical resource, or also known as vocabulary; and number 3, grammatical range and accuracy; and number 4 is task response. Let's talk about number 1, that is about cohesion and coherence. So, cohesion and coherence means the ability to write in a clear and well organized manner. Usually, the essays should be organized into paragraphs. The essays should be organized so that reader can follow. And let's start with cohesion. Cohesion means join physically. That means sentences are glued together. Then paragraphs are also made to stick together. Example of a paragraph written without cohesion. Example, Ram is a good boy, period. Sita likes helping poor. Here, the two sentences are not in cohesion and lack linking or connection. Now, after correction, you will get the version 2, that is, Ram is a good boy, period. He likes helping poor. Note that how these two sentences in version 2 sticks together or glues together, is tied together or linked together or connected together as compared to the version 1. Here we used he as a pronoun for Ram, and the two sentences seems to get connected. Now cohesion continued. Here we used he pronoun to connect the above two sentences. Words such as pronouns, nouns, but, however, not only but also, in spite, although, despite, even though, because of, first, second, third, in summary, in conclusion, etc., that are used for connecting sentences or paragraphs are called cohesive tools or cohesive devices. Note, these cohesive tools or devices are also signpost words used in reading sections. Okay? Now, after having discussed about cohesion, let's discuss what coherence is. So, coherence means join logically. Now, if you remember from the past, cohesion was joining physically, whereas coherence means to join logically. In coherence, we join ideas logically. Example, you are going to write about artificial intelligence or AI, then you are not going to talk about Russia and Ukraine war, are you? So if you are, then you are not joining with coherence. You are not being coherent. Now let's take us a slide. Okay. This is the slide of a Buddha statue. So Buddha, you might know, is also considered God in Asia and is considered peace messenger for the rest of the world. Was born in Nepal, of course, and these are the image is of a huge Buddha statue. Now, there are statues of Buddha that are many, many stories high, or they are very huge. How do you think those huge statues are built? They are 4 stories high, 5 stories high, hundreds of meters or feet high. Okay. One such statue was built in Afghanistan, and it was the oldest Buddha statue. It was one of the biggest Buddha statue in the history. But they were, uh, it was damaged in Afghanistan by bombings and other activities. So, how is this huge statue being made? Okay. So, at first, what happens is those statues are built in pieces or blocks. Okay, they are made blocks by blocks in parts, and which are glued together or stick together or attached together to form a huge statue. Okay. For example, let's say first Part A is carved out of a block of stone. Then to it is added part B, and then to it is added part C. And when A, B, and C goes in this order, we get the complete version one of the Buddha statue, smiling Buddha. Okay. So once such a statue was to be made, and that statue parts were made in the blocks, and that was to be transferred to a different location. But what happened is the driver of a lorry who had to ship it, who had to uh, transport it to different location, was drunk last night. And since it was not of his business of what was the statue about or how it was to be uh, loaded and unloaded, so he was a bit of a careless about the things that was in his cargo. So he just cared about loading and unloading the truck or the lorry. So because he was drunk and he was careless, he dropped the parts of the statue in different order than it was supposed to. Okay. For example, he did like he dropped A first, then after he dropped B, then after he dropped C at the destination location. Then when he dropped this in this order, the version two of the statue was built. Now you tell me, what do you see in version one versus what do you see in version two? So when both remember both these versions have got the same pieces of blocks or the same type of arts and architecture, yet they give a different outlook or they convey the different image or they are different in appearance. They convey the different, deliver different message information or they convey the different images. Version 1, you can see a smiling Buddha, but in version 2, see the different forms of the same statue. And you can't tell even if that all parts belong to the same statue if it is uh, borrowed from different statue. So coherence means like when you take an analogy of this Buddha statue or these parts of the Buddha statue with the essay you write or the in the speaking section, the uh, words you speak or the sentences you speak or the ideas you speak should be like in version 1. That means one piece of idea like A should be connected logically to pieces B in the idea. And also B should be connected to C like in version 1 and not like in version 2. We can see that in version 2, this piece of information is not being well connected. Okay. So that is giving us a different outlook or different piece of information. For example, if somebody asks you, even in a speaking section or in writing section, if somebody asks you to describe yourself, you should not say, like in version 2, my hobbies are playing football, playing basketball, and I graduated from New York State University. I live in Manhattan. And my name is John. Okay, that is what the version 2 would sound like. Whereas in version A, it would sound like my name is John. I live in Manhattan and I graduated from New York State University. My hobbies are playing basketball, football, so on. So you see the difference in the two versions of the same pieces of information. or same ideas, how they are being said differently and they deliver different image or message. So your writing should also be well organized and in a good sequence, okay? Like where that's shown in the version 1 of this statue. Okay, now coming back to our slide, we can see what it looks like. Begin with- Okay, so our uh, writing should also be that. Okay, now okay, now let's talk about lexical resource. After cohesion and coherence, we come to talk about lexical resource or vocabulary. IELTS vocabulary plays a huge role for uplifting your score or enhancing your score. Okay? And therefore, you need to increase your volume of your vocabulary. Okay? So try to use vocabulary that is relevant to the context. That means use the vocabulary that is relevant. Don't use some irrelevant vocabularies. Okay? For example, if you are going to talk about food, try to use vocabularies like menu, catering, food, delicious, spicy, hot, Mediterranean, Japanese, Chinese, continental, Western, Asian, Indian, okay, Vietnamese food, or you might say like palatable, savory, dark tasting, mouth watering, spicy, hot, rare cooked, medium cooked, and so on. Okay? Appetite, culinary, cuisine, and so on. So whenever you have to talk about novels, books, talk about different genres like comedy, action, sci-fi, animated, horror, uh, thriller, suspense, family, drama, and so on. Okay. So try to use the vocabularies that are pertinent to that specific topic, and don't use the vocabulary randomly. Uh, Something that does not make sense. For example, if you are feeling very hungry, don't say, I want to eat and eat more. Okay? Try to say that I'm starving or try to say I have a huge appetite. Okay? That is the right way of saying it. So try to use the right vocabulary. Now let's talk about grammatical range and accuracy. That is the third important aspects in your writing. Okay? In speaking also it matters. Now we are in the writing section. So try to use subject and verb with good agreement. For example, a child is or playing in the garden. Here is correct answer or correct choice. Don't write a child or playing in the garden because a child is singular subject. Similarly, children is or playing on the garden. Here are is correct. So don't use is. Okay. So in this way, you have to choose the correct form of grammar that is in good agreement with the subject or noun. Similarly, plurals. For plurals, also you have to use like 10 chairs. So, for example, for plurals, if there is like 10 chairs, you have to use 10 chairs and don't write just 10 chair. You have to write one as also. Okay. So try to use plural subjects. Okay. And uh, another thing is and you have to use the correct form of tenses. For example, use present tense if you have to say something that is happening in the present time, and simple present continuous tense or present perfect tense, present perfect continuous tense. Or if you want to say something about the past, similarly use the past tense, or of tomorrow, use the future tense. So here, is perfect continuous. Similarly, you can write what simple past tense, or simple future tense. So these different forms of tenses as per your needs. Okay. And another thing you should take care is about what active versus passive voice. Okay. Active versus passive voice. That means, example, Ram kicked a ball is an active voice, and you can change into passive voice like ball was kicked by Ram. And there would be some other sentence like conditional sentences. For example, you could use conditional sentence like if it rains, I will not come to the class tomorrow. There is a condition here if it rains, right? So these are like conditional sentences. So try to use conditional sentences as well. Conditional sentences are a special form of complex sentences. Uh, so we will talk about here later on. So you try to use sentence variations in your writing. For example, simple sentence has got only one independent clause. For example, Ram is a good boy is an independent clause and is a simple sentence. Okay. Compound sentences says these are usually longer and are made from use of various conjunctions. Okay. So for compound sentence, you use conjunctions, and in English there are 7 coordinating conjunctions you can use. 7 for making compound sentence. Okay. And these conjunctions are, for example, they are for, and, not, but, or, yet, or yet, yet, and so, and so. Uh, and you can also build complex sentences. And for complex sentences, you can use certain subordinating conjunctions, because, while, if, although, after, as, before, whenever, wherever, whenever, since, never, since, never, since, and whereas, and whereas. Okay, so these are the different coordinating conjunctions you can use. So example, and let's take an example of some compound sentence. Let's take an example. For example, Ram is a good boy. Ram is a good boy. Ram is a good boy. The good boy, and he likes helping poor. So you see here two different independent clauses are being by the conjunctions and, right? So that is about coordinating conjunction. And example of subordinating use of compound sentence, complex sentence. using subordinating conjunctions are like, although Ram is a good boy, comma, he sometimes hurts small children. So you see here, although Ram is a good boy, is one dependent clause, and its meaning is dependent, being dependent upon the other independent clause, like he sometimes hurts the small children. So in this way, we form different types of sentences like simple, compound, and complex. So whenever possible, you have to try to use different types of sentences in your writing as well as in speaking section of an IELTS test also. Try to make use of different forms of sentences and just don't sound or make your speech monotonous by just focusing on one, just writing only the simple sentences or only the compound sentences. That would sound more boring. Okay? So please try to use combinations in uh, in in your essay, okay, or in your speaking section. So after this, now let's go to another part. That is the task response. So in the task response, there are two types of tasks in your essay. Two types of two types of okay. So there are two types of tasks. One is task one and another is task two. So in task one, you have to write 150 words and time recommended is 20 minutes. And here you have to compare and contrast where relevant. But you should not give your opinion in task one. Whereas in task two, there you have to write about 250 words and the recommended time is 40 minutes. You have to present an opinion supported by reasons, examples, data, and facts. Okay? So that is the difference between task one and there are the differences between task one and task two. So note, you can use pen, pencil, and writing, but listening and reading, you need to write with pencil in the paper-based test. Now let's go over task one. How does task one look like? So in task one, there are different types of visuals. There are bar charts or bar graphs, there are pie charts, there are tables, there are line graphs or trend graph, there is diagram, there are flow charts and maps. And you can, of course, uh, search for different types of graphs in Google. You can, if you go to the Google, if you go to the internet, you can and type these types of graphs, then you will see hundreds and hundreds of images about different types of graphs and charts. So based on that, you have to uh, write down answer the graphs. So in task one, you have to analyze and describe key features. Which places or people or things is the information about? How many different things are being compared? You know? What units are used to show the amounts, common numbers, or proportions? Example, percent, centimeter, kg, etc. What period of time does the visual refer to? This will help you decide whether you answer in past tense or present tense. So if the time is about 1980s or 1960s or 1990s, then definitely with reference to now, you should use past tense. If it is in 2030s or 2050s, then you have to use future tense. And if it is in 2024, then you have to use the present tense. So it depends upon the time in relevant question that your tense of your answer is based on. So another thing, important thing, is about using the correct vocabulary in writing. Vocabularies are also called lexical resources. So there are some vocabularies which you should use during your IELTS writing test in your essays. For example, here, for this case, we can see first you have to note down the axis, y-axis and x-axis, and see what is being presented. For example, for this line graph, you can see this peak is mentioned, described by using the words such as peaked at, nearly, approximately, roughly, nearly, near about, nearly, just below. To say that it is somewhere around what? 70, this might be a percentage or number. So 70s. This mark, it is near about this point. We cannot say that it is exactly here because if you draw a line perpendicular to this mark, it might go a little bit above, little bit below this standard mark, right? So we have to use the word like nearly, approximately, roughly, near about, nearly, just above, uh, exactly, and these types of words. Okay, so you have to take care of these things. And another thing is, so whenever you have to say like something, if something is happening slowly, you can use words like gradual, slow, decline. If it's decreasing, then you can write decline or decrease. And if something is stable for a long period of time, you can use the words like plateaued or stable. And if something is increasing rapidly, then you have to use words like inflation. And when it reaches its climax, then you have to use the word like inflated, culminated, or apexed. And similarly, when it is increasing gradually, slowly, you have to use words like gradual, slow, decline, or increase. And when it is fixed, you can use words like constant, steady. And when it's decreasing sharply, you can use words like deflation. When it has reached its bottom point, okay, then you can use the words like deflated or plummeted. And if there is variations like ups and downs, you can use the words like variations or fluctuations. So these types of vocabularies that are relevant to these comparison graphs or images, you have to use that type of words. Now, another important parameter for writing is lexical resource or vocabulary. So you have to use the right forms of vocabularies. For example, if you need to make comparisons, you have to use words like similarly, likewise, in the same way, okay, in the same way, exactly the same, or just as, equally, as well as, almost as much as, also, to, in addition, and so on. If you are comparing something, if you are contrasting something, you have to use the words like smaller, significantly. However, on the other hand, contrast, nevertheless. So, tackling task one. At first, Identify, present, highlight, and illustrate important features of the visual. Means try to identify in the visual what is maximum and what is minimum. You don't need to write down everything that you see in the visual. You just need to mention some important aspects or parameters. This identify what things are remarkable and worth mentioning. So, and then after, you need to organize the information in a logical way so that it's easy to understand. Okay, there should be some coherence and cohesion as we already discussed in our previous section. And don't just list the numbers or items. Many students fail in writing section because they just list the items or numbers. They just mention like A is X percentage, B is Y percentage, A is X number, Y is B number, and so on. Don't just mention the number, just compare it. Instead, say like A is 5 times more than B, which is around this much percentage. On the other hand, B is 7 times lower than C, which is this much percentage. So try to make comparisons wherever possible. Don't just list the numbers. So format for talks one. In case of format, you need to write an introduction, which may be 2 to 3 lines or 4 lines, 4 sentences. And then after you have to write overview, also known as conclusion. So conclusion and overview passage paragraph is the same. Again, 3, 4 lines of overview or conclusion. Then after another paragraph of key features one and another paragraph for key features two should be mentioned. For example, if you are given this example or this diagram, you can see this is a bar graph diagram or bar chart or bar graph. And there are two parameters that are being compared. One is what? Wholesome food, and another is what? Fast food. And we can see the title of the graph reads like Food Consumption Behavior of People of Nepal. And we can see on the y-axis the percentages, and on the x-axis we can see the years, 1980s, 1990, and 2000. We can also see that the trend with the pencil, you can draw a line over these bar graphs, and you can see that when you compare through the years for the wholesome food, the consumption has been decreased sharply. Why? On the other hand, if you make a comparison of the fast food, the, the consumption has been increasing rapidly. So these are the trends that have been going on. Okay, so that thing you have to mention in talks one, graph. So you have to read everything that is given in the graph in task one. So let's see our sample answer for this graph or essay. Introduction. Given is a bar graph of feeding habits of people of Nepal. Remember, we are not doing the copy pasting. We are just paraphrasing it in our own words. Given is a bar graph of feeding habits of people of Nepal from the years 1980 to 2000. Overview paragraph. In overall, comma, it can be seen that the consumption of wholesome food has significantly decreased on moving from the year 1980 to 2000. Yeah, we can see it's decreasing significantly 1980 to 2000, whereas the consumption of fast food skyrocketed during the same period. Here we have used the word vocabulary skyrocketed because it's increasing very rapidly. Okay, we have also used the word significant. Okay, so these types of vocabulary you need to use for scoring higher. And key feature one paragraph, we will write, now talking about wholesome food. Now we will discuss this matter one by one. Remember, in overview passage, you should not write any percentages or any numbers, except the dates. Okay? So in key feature one will be something like this. Now talking about wholesome food, its consumption was earmarked around 80%, 50% in the year 1980. In 1980, it was marked around which 50%, which then decreased to approximately by half in the year 1990. You see, this one is approximately 25% and is half of 50%. So you have to compare whenever possible. The comparison can be with itself or with another uh, item, depending upon the way, style, how you want to use it. Okay, you can adapt any type of different types of style, writing style. Finally, in the year 2000, the consumption rate plummeted to a round figure of 15%. So here it falls nearly to 15% in the year 2000. So in this way, you can write about key feature one. Okay. And next paragraph will be about key feature two. This should be your assignment. Write similarly talking about fast food. It's skyrocketed. Da, da, da. So hint, you have to use this hint and write another paragraph about what? Fast food. We talked about foods, wholesome food. Now talk about fast food. Start similarly talking about fast food. It's it skyrocketed in the year this to this percentage, okay, and so on. Okay, and and remember in your essay, you don't need to write these headings. Give the headings. It's just for you to memorize. Okay, it's just for you to know the layout or format. You know the uh, outline how you should write. It's just for you to for the simplicity. And you should not mention this introduction, overview, or key feature one, or key feature two. Don't give this title, okay? Just write it without writing those titles in your real text. So now let's move on to task two. In task two, there would be approximately 250 words. And again, you have to use grammatical range and accuracy. There should be some logical flow. You should uh, write in 40 minutes approximately and give sufficient reasons, examples, and experience to support your opinion. So essay structure format. And in essay structure, the format is something like this. There will be an introduction, which will be one paragraph. Then there will be next paragraphs, 2 to 3 paragraphs about the body or the main part that would be discussed. And final part would be the paragraph or the conclusion, final conclusion paragraph that would be just one paragraph. So talks two. So this is the general format that should be used. So in talks two, you will start by giving an introduction and give an introduction, one line, a opening sentence or a general statement related to the topic. Okay? Then after, you should give another line. This general statement can be one to two lines. Then give your opinion in one line, like I agree. That will be your thesis statement or position statement or your standpoint view. You can write like I agree, I disagree, yes or no. And in another line, you should say give an outline of an essay. That is an optional. Like you can say discuss like we will discuss about the advantages and disadvantages of internet in the paragraphs that follow. That is your outline of an essay. Then in body paragraph, you have to write 2 to 3 paragraphs. You have to base your uh, these. You have to base your body paragraph based on the prep formula, and we will discuss about how to write the prep formula later on. So build on this formula called prep, and in the conclusion, you will paraphrase or restate thesis statement. Remember, thesis statement is in the introduction section. So you will bring this sentence from the introduction sentence and paraphrase or rewrite in your own words in the conclusion paragraph. Then also rewrite conclusion sentences from your body paragraph. Body paragraph will also have two, two paragraphs, and we restate the conclusion sentence from those two paragraphs here. And finally, there is an optional closing statement. So how to write a body paragraph? Remember, uh, in a body paragraph, you should begin the first sentence or the topic sentence, and the other sentences that follow should support your main idea of that paragraph. And that's and the way how it is supported is by use of what? Experience, facts, data, examples, and reasons. So use these elements to support your idea. And the last sentence or the conclusion sentence of a paragraph, of a body paragraph, will be the same paraphrase of the first sentence of your body paragraph. Body paragraph. Okay. The answers to follow questions in reading sections most of the time is found just by reading first and last line of a paragraph. So this is how you write a paragraph. So if you know how to write this paragraph, it will also help you in the reading section of an IELTS test, because the first line and last line of the paragraph, here you see the first line, the last line, and the first line will be almost the same in all paragraphs. Okay? And therefore, that will tell you the author's main point, main idea, suitable title, author's purpose, and suitable heading for the paragraph just by reading the first line and last line. So it is how writing and readings are related. Okay? Because if you know how to write, you know how to read as well. Okay? So while writing, your main idea should be in your first line and last line, whereas the other sentences in between these two lines should support the first line and the last line or the main idea of your paragraph. And the way we support it by use of experience, facts, data, examples, or reasons, as we told earlier. Now, classroom versus paragraph. Now, while writing a paragraph, you can compare to a classroom. Okay. So think of topic sentence like the roof of the classroom and the conclusion sentence like the floor of the classroom. So roof and the floor is not much difference. If you uh, uh, if you look at structurally, it's not so much difference. Okay, both are like flat surfaces. Therefore, your paragraphs should also have the same idea or same meaning information in the first and the last sentences. And topic sentence, that is called, the first sentence is called topic sentence, and the last sentence is called conclusion sentence in a paragraph. Compare the topic sentence of a paragraph to the roof of the classroom and conclusion sentence of the paragraph to the floor of the classroom. And between this floor and the roof, you can see that your roof of your classroom is being supported by different pillars. Okay, there are like 4 to 6 pillars in a classroom that supports the roof. Similarly, your topic sentence in the paragraph should also be supported by pillars, and those pillars are what? Not other than None other than examples, reasons, facts, data, opinion. Okay. Now there are various types of essays. Okay. One is agreeing versus disagreeing. Another is advantages versus disadvantages. Another is discuss both views, provide both sides of the argument. In this case, if the essay question is saying discuss both views, then you have to provide both sides of the argument, okay, and then you will score it. And another type of essay is also what? Cause problem versus solution essay. The essay will tell you to discuss about the cause of global warming or climate change and provide a suitable solution for global warming or climate change. Or the essays may be combination of all the above types. So there are different types of essays for you to write in your real exam. So be prepared for that. Note, you may agree or disagree the statement presented in your essay question, or you may partially agree without compromising your scores. It does not matter either you agree the statement or you disagree it. Okay. Only the thing that matters is how well you have written or how well you have defended your opinion. Okay, that is what matters. Either you are agreeing to a good cause or you are disagreeing to a good cause does not matter. You might say like, I think going to school for education is bad, but this might be okay. This might be correct, but you have to support it well. You have to convince your reader by giving suitable examples, opinions, and data and figures. Now, prep formula for writing a body paragraphs. How to use prep method to write a body paragraph. PREP is an acronym for what? P stands for viewpoint, and R stands for what? R stands for reason. E stands for what? E stands for examples, reasons, examples, opinions, experience, and data. Okay. And P is again what? Restatement of your viewpoint. Therefore, you have to use this formula to write your body paragraph. Okay. State your viewpoint, then give reasons, then provide suitable examples, experience, data, or facts, and then again restate your viewpoint. Now, finally, moving to this point, so about brainstorming your essay. Brainstorming essay is an important technique that is used in writing the body paragraphs in task 2 essay. Brainstorming technique is also used equally in speaking section of an IELTS exam. In speaking part 2, you have to 1 minute brainstorm your ideas before you are allowed to talk about it. So what is exactly the meaning of brainstorming? So brainstorming is a method to generate ideas. For example, you need to write a paragraph about internet. So the main point, the keyword internet is written within a box. Then after you write all the words that comes in your mind related to internet around the box. For example, when we think about internet, the words that come into our mind are eye strain, back pain, cardiovascular diseases, online education, telemedicine, e-commerce, advertisement, and entertainment. Now, when you have written all these words around the box, internet, and you can classify these words into two groups. For example, online education, telemedicine, e-commerce, advertisement, and entertainment can be put together in one group of advantages, whereas cardiovascular diseases, back pain, and eye strain, for example, can be put into another paragraph about the disadvantages. This way, way that will organizing your ideas will help you write your different body paragraphs of your text as well. And besides that, another things you need to take into consideration while writing lessons are not copy paste question in your essay, just paraphrase. Don't copy paste. Okay? So we have to speak our own words that shows our originality. Do not use abbreviations like don't, etc., example, etc. Write in complete words like DONT or don't and ETCETERA for ETC. Also, don't be vague like etc. and so on. Try not to use those words. Be more specific instead. For example, instead of saying like I like shoes, say I like red shoes or I like shoes from this brand. Similarly, while concluding, use remarks like in conclusion, somehow, etc. And last but not the least, not introduce new ideas in conclusion. Just mention about talk about things that have been discussed in the body paragraphs and in the introduction paragraph, but not open, come up with new ideas. And finally, do the proofreading. For proofreading, use the following formula, which is called as SPLAT in short. That means S stands for spellings, check for spellings error. PL means plurals, check for plurals. A means subject verb agreements, check for subject whether the subject number is in agreement with the verbs, singular or plural, and check if the tenses have been used correctly. So with that saying, this brings us to the end of this IELTS writing section. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, share, and please continue watching the channel learning of the IELTS.